The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Hi, welcome to the latest edition of Mental Health Now. I'm your host, Matthew Shapiro from NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, New York State. And today we're going to be talking about different awareness initiatives around mental health, and I'm pleased to be joined by two of my colleagues, our walk manager, Nicole Bulanchuk, and our executive director, Wendy Burch. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Thanks, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. I'm really, really happy to be here.
Oh, well, we're all happy to have you here. And talking about awareness is so important. And obviously, one of the big awareness initiatives, actually our biggest awareness initiative, is our annual NAMI Walk, which is going to be taking place September 23rd here in Albany at Jennings Landing. And Nicole, can you tell us a little bit about the walk?
I would love to. So the walk is taking place, like you said, at Jennings Landing. Registration is going to start at 8:30 a.m. Mm-hmm. The walk itself will start at 10, but we're going to have a lot of entertainment starting at 9:30. Mm-hmm. So that requires, we got music coming, local bands. We're going to have public officials coming to speak, free food. It's going to be a really nice morning. We're also going to have an unlimited photo booth this year. So I think that's going to be really great for the kids, for the families. Everybody can take pictures of the event. It's going to be a really, really nice morning to celebrate and just raise awareness to mental health, which is just an important cause.
It is so important. And it's so important. We talk about this a lot, and we've talked about this on the show, that, of course, 1 in 5 people are going to be diagnosed with a mental illness, but everyone's going to have mental health problems during their lives and effects. So many people are still reluctant to talk about it. So the walk is such a great opportunity to let the world know that you're stigma free and that we can talk about these things, and it in fact impacts everybody's life, correct?
Of course, everybody somewhere along the line is going to have to experience mental illness, whether it's within themselves or their family or their colleagues or their friends. It impacts all of us, and we all need to understand it so that we can help and cure people and actually make people's lives happier. I think that that's very important for us all to get together and just understand so we can combat the stigma and just mental illness in general.
Right, and get more people talking about it. And that's one of the nice things you mentioned, the photo booth, that people can have a photo with the Why I Walk sign and really show that they are stigma-free and they're helping to raise awareness.
Absolutely.
It's so important. It's so key to what NAMI does. Now, how can people sign up to learn more about the walk?
So people can sign up right on our website, NAMI-NYS.org.
NAMI-NYS.
It's, NAMI-NYS. So, NAMI New York State, if you want to try to remember. So, NAMI-NYS.org. And they can just click the registration button. They can set up a team with their friends, their family, people from work. And if they just want to, fundraise, they could just come to the walk, donate. It's really up to them, whatever they want to contribute.
Okay, and again, that's September 23rd at Jennings Landing, starting at 10. And one of the reasons the walk is so important, beyond just raising awareness, which is so key to what NAMI does, is that it really allows us to fund our awareness programs throughout the state. So Wendy, I want to talk a little bit about what NAMI does. I think in some ways we're still the best kept secret in town, and when people are looking to talk about mental illness and get information, NAMI is really a great place to turn, correct?
Absolutely. We've got our helpline. Anyone can call our helpline. We have a 1-800 number, but our local number is 518-462-2000. And what we try and do is help connect people with resources and with support in their areas. And so when we talk about programs, NAMI has some really wonderful programs. Sort of our flagship program, aside from our support groups, we do support groups for both family members of people with mental illness and someone living with mental illness themselves, is our family to family class. And that's a 12-week course that when you take it, it's for family members to better learn about mental illness, but even more importantly, learn how to better communicate with their loved ones who have a mental illness, because that's always, it becomes an issue. And not only that, but help advocate for their loved ones. Ways to navigate the mental health system is often very challenging, and so being able to kind of communicate that and share stories, really, it helps quite a bit.
Of course, when a family member first, learns of a diagnosis of their loved one, it's such a scary thing, because I think still people have so many of these preconceived notions about mental health and mental illness, and so many people who have taken our course, the family to family course, really say it's a life changer. It puts things in perspective. They feel like they're lost, and the course is able to ground them. And one of the most important things, which you didn't mention, is that the course is offered for free. We don't charge.
Right.
All our signature programs are offered at no cost to the public, which is why raising awareness and raising funds through the walk is so important. Let's talk about some of the other courses, because that's for family members, but we also have different courses for people living with a mental illness as well.
That's right. So our NAMI peer-to-peer course, which is a 10-week course, again, free for people living with mental illness, again, kind of tackles the same issues, but from the peer perspective. We've got NAMI Basics, which is also similar to family, except that it's for parents of young children who are experiencing mental illness and emotional issues.
And that's so important, too, because we've kind of talked about this on the show, too, when we discuss children's issues, that I think that's a whole nother set of advocacy. It's explaining to the school what's going on with the child and making sure they get the proper services and support in schools, and that's another thing a lot of our families find very challenging.
Yes,
so it's so
absolutely. And then we've got our NAMI Homefront class, which is, again, very similar to family, except that it's addressing issues that particularly affect service members and veterans, and so families can go and help their veteran or service member and better communicate with them.
Right, it's so important, because that's another whole set of, the military, people realize a lot, we talk a lot about PTSD and things that might happen with a veteran or a service member, but often overlooked is the mental health impact on the military family, whether it's a family that's home while the loved one is being deployed, and that's always a constant worry, or of course, understanding the changes that might happen to the loved one once they get back from service, and how to best deal with that and generate the most positive outcomes. And that's something we're very proud of, and we do offer that course right here in the Stratton VA in Albany. We've developed a wonderful relationship with them.
And you mentioned schools, Matthew. We have another program. It's called In Our Own Voice, and the school equivalent to that is Ending the Silence. And those are presentations, and that, In Our Own Voice is when someone with a mental illness they're in recovery and they tell the story of their journey towards recovery. Ending the Silence is very similar, except that these are young people that are going into schools and telling their story to other young people, and it's been so impactful here in New York. We get so many young people that, they've noticed perhaps that a friend of theirs is having symptoms of a mental illness, and so now they know how to try and get help for their friends, or oftentimes themselves, or even a family member. So they're great programs.
And actually, that's a great point. I'm going to pivot back to Nicole about this, because you're a younger adult. I mean, you're still a college student, and we were talking before about some of the things that you saw in high school and not having the proper support. So, I mean, can you talk about a little bit how you feel mental health might have been dealt with in high school? We'll get to college in a minute, and how maybe a program like End of the Silence would have benefited.
It's actually really interesting, if you're going to bring about this topic like that, because when I think about my high school experience, I really had a lot of different mental health concerns in high school that I felt weren't properly addressed. And it wasn't until I took a Psychology 101 course when I was in 11th grade where I actually understood that I had anxiety myself, and I actually understood what I was going through. And if it wasn't for that course, I wouldn't have had that. And that's just kind of a really very accurate description and reflection on kind of what mental health is and how there hasn't really been as much support in the schools. So I really just believe that we need to all join together and just somehow work together so we can educate everyone on mental illness and mental health and being mentally well. I think that's the most important part, because if I had learned earlier, I would have been a lot happier a lot sooner.
And what NAMI does is we seek to serve as a resource to supplement what the mental health field is doing. And schools have a lot on their plate. They have a lot going on. So if we can help in any way to just, bring those topics to the forefront and help to direct people toward the right services, that's our goal.
Right, and we do. And I know we're going to have an episode coming up about our education conference. And one of the things that's so exciting to me about the conference, and again, the funds that we do do generate from the walk help support that as well, is that we do have a track on children's mental health issues, and we encourage a lot of teachers to come at no cost, and that's, again, the walks helps with that. And I think it's so important, like you say, I think schools are so overrun right now, and there's so many issues going on, and they're not mental health professionals, but they definitely play a role, an important role. Teachers spend almost as much time, when you think about it, with a student as maybe a parent does. And when you think about a quarter of a student's time is going to be with that teacher, and they might be able to notice things that a parent might fail to recognize in their child. And it's so important that they know how to recognize that and how to communicate it to the parent in a positive way. I think sometimes you get
Well, it's
that.
also a different perspective than a parent. It's more of an outsider's point of view, which is definitely important, because they'll definitely, like you were just saying, I definitely agree that that's something that you can see from a teacher's perspective that a parent might not, that they dismiss because they see their child day in and day out in a certain way. But a teacher, on the other hand, might see something differently.
Right.
And another thing that we can do, not just in schools but in the community in general, is we've developed a lot of brochures that we do distribute to the community free of charge, and it just gives a snapshot of different mental health issues, and we've got a whole wide variety of brochures that we distribute. But things like this gives you kind of a heads up on what's going on possibly, and then there is contact information for NAMI, so that you can take the next step and we can help you get to the right services.
Right. I think one of the big messages that we discuss is that you're not alone in those brochures, and we have, you held up one on depression, one on PTSD, but we have but we have ones on eating disorders and substance abuse, which is so. It would talk about schools, these issues. We could do a whole show on the opioid epidemic, and it's interesting because I think a lot of that, what we failed to discuss in that, is that a lot of it does come from self-medicating and people who have mental health issues who are not treating it in the proper way, or still reluctant to admit that they have a problem and they turn to drugs. But we do have resources on that too. And of course, we produce all these resources in-house, all these informations which we're trying to get to doctors' offices and schools, both psychiatric providers and general practitioners. And of course, all that does cost money. And again, why it's so important that the walk is successful. But getting back to the schools thing for a minute, one of the things that's been really inspiring to me is seeing young people getting involved. And I say this a lot, that your generation, Nicole, and those who are a little younger than you or in the same age group, are really the ones that are going to change the perceptions about mental illness and hopefully end the stigma. And it's great to see us partnering with young people. And one of the cool things that we did this year, Wendy, that you helped orchestrate, was working with the Girl Scouts on our ribbon campaign. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so a few years ago, one of the affiliates in
Westchester.
More southern New York to Albany, Westchester, and it was picked up also by our NAMI Mid-Hudson. They came up with the ribbon campaign, and the ribbon campaign is an awareness campaign. It gives information. The ribbons, we ask partners, whether it's a municipality or a school or a business, to hang a ribbon to highlight awareness during May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. The ribbons do give contact information about NAMI, and also we give information to whichever partner this is about NAMI and where they can find help and how they're helping. So we're getting the word out, and we were fortunate enough to partner with a service unit in the Albany area of Girl Scouts, and they really took it and they ran with it, and they plastered the whole community with ribbons, and created a lot of community partnerships. And I was really very impressed with what the Scouts did. They were really dedicated,
and it really helped them in all sorts of civic involvement. They had to go in front of their town board, right, to ask for permission, and it really gave them experience about being advocates and about government and how to get the word out there. So that's fantastic. So there are definitely so many ways to educate yourself and to get involved with educational institutions, because the earlier that we can address mental health issues, the better the outcomes can be, and that's certainly one of our big missions. And that's one of the concerns we have as well, is about mental health on college campuses and not a lack of general services. Can you give us a little insight about that?
Sure. Well, yeah, just to expand on what you just said, it's actually like a huge epidemic right now. They say that 1 out of 2 students has suicidal thoughts. Now that right there, that's half.
Right.
Suicidal thoughts, that's a horrible statistic. Now me, personally, I'm trying to combat that statistic. I actually work for this wonderful organization called Middle Earth Peer Assistance Program, and we've had a crisis hotline on University at Albany campus for 48 years now. I'm actually going to be the president this upcoming year. But basically what we do is we offer a crisis hotline for all the students. We average about 1,600 calls every academic year. So we get a significant amount of calls, and it's really just a wonderful organization. But we offer those direct services to the students so that they can call and talk about whatever issue they may be. It may be, suicide. It may be just because they're anxious about a test. It could be a wide range of opportunities for them to talk. It's really just up to them and whatever service they may need. So I truly think that on college campuses, we just need to reduce the stigma, because you can't just walk into the mental health clinic, the counseling center at my school without, feeling okay, who's watching me? Oh, I'm not that secure about what I'm experiencing. And it's really just sad that we can't openly have a conversation about mental health.
And that's, I think, what's so important about the walks, too, is that as much as we talked about the fundraising, it is an awareness. And, when you have more than 300 people come together and say, I may have a mental health issue. I love someone that has a mental health issue, and here I am. The world see me. This is something that's okay to talk about, and I think it's so important to combating that trauma.
I just want to express that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to have a bad day, and if you're experiencing something, it's okay to reach out for help, because you need help. It's okay. If that's something that I want to just express to everybody, that everybody has things in their life and it's okay to not be okay, if that makes sense. And I just wish I could broadcast that on all the rooftops, just so people could understand that these are real issues. And I'm fighting every day. I wake up every morning trying to combat these issues and trying to make the world a better place and people happier, because this is such a real issue. These are things that everybody experiences. You said it yourself, 100% of people have some sort of mental health concern, I guess, in their life.
Well, when you think about it, everyone at some point is going to deal with grief, deal with depression, deal with anxiety, and people forget. And I want to talk to Wendy a second, too, about mental health in the workplace, which is something else we're looking to address, because people don't realize that depression is the #1 cause of sick time from work. It costs businesses $1 billion a year because employees are taking time off for depression.
And what's really crazy about that statistic is that that's also the #1 reason. Depression and anxiety is the #1 reason why students drop out.
Yeah.
It's because they get so overwhelmed. And it's true. College is very stressful, especially compared to high school. There's exams, you have all these projects, you have so much on your plate, and it's so many hours that you have to spend studying just to do well. I get it. It's stressful.
And that's on top of having to learn new self-management skills, when to do your laundry, and
it's a huge transition.
You don't have someone giving you your meals, and it's budgeting your time. And that's why, a lot of most serious mental illness develops between 18 and 25, and it happens while someone's away at college, and we hear these horror stories all the time. So do you feel, one of the things too, before I ask you if you think things are getting better, one of the tools that we have too to address that is NAMI on campus clubs and colleges, which is a great resource. And Wendy, can you tell us a little about, and then Nicole, you can tell us about the NAMI on campus at Albany.
Sure. A NAMI on campus is they're clubs that are formed at different colleges. I know SUNY Albany has one, and the idea is to generate more openness on campus, making sure that students know where they can get help. And so generally they will partner with a close affiliate, and they can help with speakers or other programs. And it's a great a partnership. I know I keep using that word, but it's a great partnership for the students to work with the affiliates and really help get the word out and get support for the students and faculty, frankly.
Well, it's great too, because you're right. Faculty needs to educate themselves, because I think there are definitely professors who are punch the clock, have their office hours, but there are some that are more engaged and want to see the best for their students. And I think partnership, and again, it's letting people know they're not alone. We discussed that before with the walk, in that a lot of times when people have a mental health issue, it's a very isolating experience, or it's been traditionally a very isolating experience. And we want to show, and that's one of the main things of NAMI, is you're not alone, and I will listen. So tell us a little bit about the Albany chapter of the...
So actually, it's pretty recent. I have to give full credit to Esteban Ceballos. He's actually a Middle Earth member. He's now the current president of the University of Albany NAMI chapter. So Middle Earth actually helped them start up, but it's been so great so far. I mean, last semester was our first semester actually like doing events. We had our kickoff fruit smashing event. It was stress-free fruit smashing, but 75 kids came. 75 students came just so they could smash fruit, and we just gave them all this information about NAMI.
This before finals, like final stress, or?
This was right before finals in May, this past May. And it was an awesome turnout. It was a beautiful day. And people were so excited to learn about NAMI. And they were like, wow, you know, I really didn't even know I had all these programs and all this stuff available to me. And then I explained to them Middle Earth. And I said, yeah, and you also have this hotline on campus. And people were just like, wow, this is crazy. Like, thank you so much. People were just so grateful to have these resources and actually have them presented to them. It just made me feel good on the inside. Like, okay, I'm actually making these people's lives better. I really hope they utilize these resources they have.
So do you think things are getting better, at least at SUNY Albany? Because we talked, when I was at SUNY, there was a lot of mental health episodes. A lot of them are infamous. We don't need to get into it. And I think that in some ways it was an awakening on the campus to these issues. But you're seeing them around the state too. I mean, as we discussed, Columbia University was one of the best institutions in the country, and they're associated with one of the top psychiatric institutes in the country, New York State Psychiatric Institute, which we do a lot of work with, and we've had guests on the show from there as well. And despite the fact that here you are, one of the best funded universities, you're associated with the top psychiatric center, they've had 8 student suicides in the past year. And
you're telling me that.
It's scary. It's suicide and suicide attempts, let me rephrase that. So, I mean, they're waking up to the epidemic just like SUNY has. So, in your experience, do you think things are getting better?
So I wouldn't say they're getting better. They are getting better, but not at the level which I would hope for, right? It's kind of like if it's like a continuum, it's like a slow moving process. Like, I feel like every year it gets better and better. But I mean, I guess that's like what you could expect in a way. I mean, I really wish. But a lot of it,
it's what I would call unilateral support. So it's like peers helping peers, students helping students. It's not as much. There's still a lack of psychiatric services.
Well, I know that at University of Albany specifically, we are increasing staff, and I know that through my work on Middle Earth. You know, because what we do at Middle Earth, basically, just like to briefly explain, is we are a student-run crisis hotline. So we have students that are trained. I'm actually one of the trainers. We train students to work on the hotline, and then we have we're opened from 1 p.m. to midnight, Monday through Friday, and then 24 hours on the weekends. So, and those are the hours we advertise. They're going to stay the same for this year. But what I'm trying to say is, like, we have that support for the students. Oh, I totally just lost my train of thought. But
no, students supporting students.
Students support students. Yeah, so that's always so important. And we know that one of the, that's what I was getting to. So the issue that we have when students call is that sometimes they don't have the scheduling, right? CAPS, Counseling Psychological Services at the University of Albany, doesn't have enough staff to schedule all the students when they need. So they have recently just increased staff. I think they added 3 or 4 new staff psychologists, something around that range, but they're really trying to accommodate. But the issue is there's not enough space. So it's really just how do we accommodate these issues and make sure people have the appointments that they need. And that's where we need to just boost up mental health in general for everybody.
And just general awareness. And one of the big initiatives that we led on our advocacy was having mental health education in schools, right, Wendy? Because in high schools, every student's required to take a semester of health education, but until last year, mental health education wasn't a part of that health education. We say it all the time, you can't have overall health without mental health. So that's so important. It was a big victory for us. And of course, all of our advocacy work is done through the support we're able to raise through the walk, which is why the walk taking place on September 23rd is so important. One of the big educational tools that we have too is our annual education conference, Wendy, which is going to be taking place November 10th through 12th, right down the street at the Desmond Hotel. Let's talk a little bit about that briefly. Some of the big speakers we have in the issues, obviously suicide prevention is one of the big things. It's been obviously a lot of focus, both good and bad. Obviously 13 Reasons Why brought a lot of attention. We're going to be doing, I believe our next episode of Mental Health Now is just going to be on suicide prevention. But can you tell us something about a little of the speakers that we're going to have on suicide prevention?
Yeah, we're doing a panel on suicide prevention, and because we always do a veterans track, a criminal justice track, and a children's track, we try and have representatives from those during the suicide panels on that day when we do the track during lunchtime, and so we'll have representatives from.
So I know we have former OMH Commissioner Mike Hogan, who I believe is going to be a guest on our show coming up because he's doing a lot of work with Zero Suicide.
Nice.
We have a doctor named Rosa Hill, who I probably just butchered her name too, 'cause it's with the lad, but she does suicide prevention in multicultural communities, which is so important because there's such a lack of mental health services. And then, like you said, doctors looking at military, children, so it should be fantastic. Some of the other sessions will have updates on clinical work, research work. But one of the things I'm very excited about is our NAMI Honors Awareness, which this whole episode's about awareness. So this year we're doing something new and honoring 3 people. One was a previous guest on our show, Keith O'Neill, who are really going above and beyond to raise awareness through different means. So you want to talk a little bit about Ron Powers, our Pulitzer Prize winning author, who's going to be...
Sure. He recently wrote a book about his own family's struggles with, I think, schizophrenia.
Yeah, he had 2 children with schizophrenia.
Yeah, and again, he's written a lot on other topics. I think Mark Twain, and he wrote Flags of Our Fathers, and now he's concentrating on mental illness. And so we're just so inspired and grateful that he would bring that to the forefront. So he will be honored as well.
And I'm sure many of our viewers will remember Keith O'Neill from the Super Bowl champion Indianapolis Colts, who told his story on a previous episode of the show, and he has a new book coming out, Under the Helmet, his struggle with bipolar disorder, and we'll be honoring Keith as well. And then we kind of touched upon when you had the brochure about dual diagnosis, we can also have a singer-songwriter named Matt Butler, whose latest album, Reckless Sun, is all about his addiction and his mental health. It's very touching. A lot of the songs are to his family members and talking about how his addiction and his mental health impacted him. So, they're leaders in awareness, and we're so excited to honor them and all the people that are going to be participating at the conference. But again, the important thing is that anyone can be a leader in awareness. And awareness, we all have a role in raising awareness, whether it's peers, helping peers, mental health in the workplace, which I know we're almost out of time, but of course, a great way to become a leader of awareness is taking place in our walk, which is going to be happening on September 3rd at Albany in Jennings Landing. We hope many of our viewers can join us and help be a leader in awareness. As we say on the show all the time, hope starts with you. And you don't have to be a Pulitzer Prize winner or a Super Bowl champion or a acclaimed singer-songwriter to raise awareness. We all have a role in that, and this is just a great opportunity. It's a good opportunity to get your first taste of NAMI and your first taste of being a leader in awareness. So we encourage everybody to do it. Before really, one thing we touch upon too that NAMI is trying to work on is mental health on the workplace. So we're starting to do resources on that as well. Can we talk a little bit about, if you see what we're trying to do with that, Wendy?
Yeah, I think most companies would say that if their employees have good mental health, then they'll be more productive. And so, we're trying to come up with, we're working on, brochures and other, media and tools for
presentations,
for employers to really understand how best to promote a mentally healthy workplace.
And again, it's kind of the same thing. We get a lot of calls on our helpline from college students where they see something in their roommate that concerns them. And the same way we talked about teachers with students, we spend so much time with our coworkers. Sometimes more time than you would like to spend with your family. You spend with your coworkers. They kind of become your work family, and you might know something a little different about them and are afraid to address it. So again, being able to spread awareness and the encouraging people to talk about it's so important, whether it's in school, the workplace, or in the community as a whole. And the better educated you are, the better family member you can be, the better college roommate you can be, the better coworker you can be, because it's a 24-hour, 7 days a week thing, and the more educated everybody is, the more aware they are, the more willing they are to talk about mental illness, the better educated and the better support they can be.
Yeah, and I think too, just to reinforce one thing that you said earlier, Matthew, and that is that a lot of times people living with a serious mental illness, or oftentimes their family members, become very isolated. They feel isolated, they feel they can't talk about it, they feel like they can't get help. And if we can offer that support, if the community can offer that support, that's what's important important. And so building awareness and not having people afraid to talk about it is really the key to finding more services and everything for people with mental illness.
And that's really all the time we have on that. So again, we hope everyone joins us, help us become raising awareness, become a champion in awareness, and join us on September 23rd at Jennings Landing for the NAMI Walk. You can learn more at www.NAMI-NYS.org. I hope to see you there, and as we always say, hope starts with you. Thank you.